All right, excuse me. Good afternoon. I'm Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, and we're here to talk about an arrest in a first-degree murder case. This past Friday, August 26th, a Pinellas County grand jury returned an indictment charging Paul Mogilevsky with first-degree murder. Mogilevsky is currently being held in the Pinellas County Jail with no bond. This charge stems from the April 27th, 2022 murder of Dominic Pasternoster, and that murder occurred at his residence of 104 Dunbridge Drive in Palm Harbor. Pasternoster's date of birth is 12/11/75. Pasternoster was not just killed, he was executed. He was shot several times, including a gunshot to the head. More than one gun was used to kill Pasternoster. I'm going to explain what happened and provide a little bit more information than probably what we ordinarily do, because this is really organized crime that's operating here in Pinellas County and in the Tampa Bay area that involves a national motorcycle gang. Nonetheless, it is still an active and ongoing investigation, so there is some information that can't be released. We know more than one person shot and killed Dominic Pasternoster, and while Mogilevsky is the only one that's in custody at this time, he won't be the last person arrested in this case. More arrests will be made. Mogilevsky and Pasternoster were both members of motorcycle gangs, or as they like to call themselves, motorcycle clubs. But that's nonsense, because they are not clubs, they're thugs. Thugs who commit crimes and kill people who they think cross them. Members of these motorcycle gangs are not kids, as you can see from the photographs here. Both Pasternoster and Mogilevsky are in their mid-40s, as are many of their criminal associates that are involved in this gang activity. Mogilevsky belongs to the Mongols, and Pasternoster belonged to the Raiders. The Raiders are a lower-level gang or motorcycle club that's a feeder membership group into the Mongols. Both gangs share a clubhouse in Tampa. The Mongols are a national group. They were founded, and they are currently based in California. They're a criminal racketeering organization, and they are organized crime, really, in its truest sense. A symbol of these motorcycle gangs is their notorious motorcycle jacket with what the club calls colors, as they're called. And that's one that's here to my right and to your left. Members have to go through a significant initiation in order to be able to wear these colors. We seized this jacket during the execution of a search warrant. The Mongols have a strong presence here in the Tampa Bay area. They are what are referred to as one-percenters. They, like the Outlaws, Hells Angels, and other organized criminals who ride motorcycles and sell drugs, they traffic in guns and they engage in human trafficking and prostitution. So these are, again, in the truest sense, criminal organizations, true organized crime that exist to do bad things to others. They're very, very different from everyday people who simply enjoy riding motorcycles on weekends and belong to true social motorcycle clubs. They aren't the people, these people are not the people that you see out on a Sunday afternoon motorcycle ride. These criminal biker organizations are called one-percenters because they are 1% of the people who ride motorcycles and self-identify as a motorcycle club when they are really this gang of thugs who terrorize and commit crime. There are several of these 1% motorcycle gangs that operate in the Tampa Bay area, including, as I've mentioned, the Mongols, the Outlaws, Black Pistons, Infidels, Originals, Cobras, and Raiders. Now, they generally commit their crime to further and to maintain their organizations and doing things like I just mentioned about selling drugs, forcing women into prostitution. They usually don't target or harm average everyday people. It's usually what happens within these organizations or among the organizations. Most of their violent crime occurs against rival groups or due to internal gang issues. And that's exactly what happened in this case. That's what happened with this murder. Mogilevsky and another person killed Paternoster because they believed Paternoster was cooperating with law enforcement to provide law enforcement with information about this motorcycle gang activity and that he was, quote, a snitch. In fact, they did what organized crime groups do when they kill people who they think are cooperating with the police. They shot Paternoster very dead by shooting him many times, including shooting him in the head. Now you want to talk about cooperation. Mogilevsky admitted to detectives that he was with Paternoster on the night of the murder at the Mongols clubhouse. Mogilevsky also admitted that he and another person were with Paternoster at Paternoster's residence at the time Paternoster was executed. Mogilevsky admissions are corroborated by video evidence from the area, and we have witnesses who put Mogilevsky and others at the scene of the murder during the time that it occurred. The Sheriff's Office Forensic Sciences Division also collected extensive physical evidence from the scene, and we've served several search warrants to obtain evidence supporting the first-degree murder indictment. We know that after Mogilevsky and the other person shot and killed Paternoster, they disposed of evidence in Tampa Bay, and our dive team was used to find the evidence. These motorcycle gangs have been around for decades, but there must be accountability when they execute each other, and this investigation is far from over. We will be serving additional search warrants, and there will be additional arrests made. So that gives you an overview of what happened. Most people are unaware of the extent to which these motorcycle gangs engage in criminal activity throughout the Bay Area. As I said, most of the time it's against each other or violence within the organizations, and that's what happened here. But they're alive and well, and they are existing throughout the Tampa Bay area, and this is what happens when they engage in that internal violence and somebody is killed. But there has to be justice done, and there has to be accountability, and we're committed to it. And as I said, this is far from over. There will be additional arrests made. There's a lot of evidence and a lot of information is forthcoming. So again, most of the public's probably not aware of this, and I thought it's important that people are aware as to what's going on in the community. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
How tough does it become to police a group like this when, I mean, without getting into how you guys do your job, if this is how they treated someone that they believed was an informant, how tough does it make it for you to actually send informants in or do what you want to do and find out what they're doing without putting people at risk?
It is hard, and extremely difficult because of what they do, and they retaliate. And you can see here is that this is a classic example, again, of true organized crime and retaliation by organized crime because they executed him. And they shot him a whole bunch of times, about as dead as you can get, and shot him in the head. And they're sending a message when they do that. So, but they don't have a license. They can't just go out and do this, and we will hold them accountable. And their actions, in this case and others, where they're trying to scare people and they're trying to send that message, is that we're not going to let that happen.
How do you protect the other people who are working with you now?
Well, I'm not going to get into all the details of all that. Obviously, we got a lot of information from a lot of different sources, a lot of things going on, and a lot of physical evidence in this case, a lot of scientific evidence. There's a lot of video, as I said, but we've got our ways. And most of the time, again, they keep this stuff internal, and they're really not going after the general public with it, but it's still a very serious crime.
You say this gang is based out of California. How large is it here in the Tampa Bay area?
So they have a clubhouse over in Tampa. It's certainly in the double digits. It's not hundreds. They have probably, in the big scheme of things, as the chapters, as they call them, that operate throughout the country. It's probably one of the smaller chapters, but it still has a pretty good footprint here in the Tampa Bay area, and they have a presence. They are around, and they are engaging in criminal activity. So a lot of it is drug dealing that facilitates the criminal enterprise, human trafficking with prostitution, guns, gun trafficking, and a lot of assaults toward each other primarily. So they're around.
Sure. Do you believe that the smaller group that he was part of, do you anticipate any kind of revenge?
Well, that's, if you remember a few years ago, they had one up in Pasco County on US 19, where it was one of the groups retaliating against another group. And that's what these people do. So, would it surprise me? No, I wouldn't be surprised by it. It's the nature of it, and they're notorious for it. as most people are aware of, and they just don't think it's happening here, is that these motorcycle gangs have been around for a very long time. I mean, the infamous ones are the Outlaws, the Hells Angels, and some of those that people hear about. But this isn't just something that you see in the movies or read about happening in California or in other places. It's alive and well here, and of course they had that situation up in Pasco. And you know, the media reported on it. This is not anything that's on the public record. Is that back in February there was, based on a murder that happened in Colorado, is they arrested another person out of that same Mongols clubhouse in Tampa back in February of this year. So again, it's all people fighting. As I said in my remarks, it's either they're fighting among themselves within their specific groups and taking somebody out for what they think they did or what they did or whatever that case may be, or it's retaliation between the clubs. And that's primarily what they do.
Does this guy think he was going to get away with it and all the other people that joined? I mean, did they do this knowing that they're probably going to be caught?
No, I don't think so. I think they think they're going to get away with it. You know, I think that they think they're Teflon to a degree, and that they can just do whatever they want, and they can wreak havoc, and they can kill people, and they can retaliate, and it's the way they've always operated, and they've operated for a long time, but they can't. And as I said, there's more arrests coming. There's more search warrants that are going to get served, and we know that he didn't do it by himself.
So is he working with you guys, or do you know how many more arrests are coming?
I'm going to leave it with what I said.
Are you able to, though, like work up the chain? So I mean, somebody had to make the call, right, that this needs to happen. Can you guys go up the ladder?
Absolutely, you know, and you know, all the way up. I mean, one of the things you find with these motorcycle gangs is that they really do have structure. You know, a lot of times we talk about street gangs, and we talk about, and again, remember, these people are not, this isn't 15, 16, 17-year-olds, you know, with street gangs. These are people in their 40s and 50s and et cetera, and they have structure and they have organization and they report to others. That's how these things work. So to the extent that we can, you know, and again, got to be careful not getting into too much, but you know, if somebody directed this, if somebody ordered this, then there will be accountability for it. And you know, one of the things I guess we all learn as we go through life is that what goes around comes around, and it all comes out at the end. And these people think they can just run around in their own little tight circle and doing what they do, including kill people, and that they're going to do it with impunity. Yeah, wrong answer. It ain't going to happen here.
You see this gang is meeting at that location in Tampa. They have these vests. Are they in hiding, or it seems like they're pretty, you know, public?
They're pretty public about it. They're pretty brazen about it. You know, and that is a problem too, as they engage in their activity. Is that you know I'm not going to identify it, but you all can find it. Their clubhouse is in Tampa. In fact, the media's already reported on previously on where their clubhouse is out of that arrest they made back in February. That was reported by the media. So they're pretty open about it. And again, these are the 1%ers. Now, you know, don't mistake this and these colors for people you see riding around on a Sunday afternoon that have a motorcycle jacket out that are out for a ride as those traditional clubs. That's not these people. Very different. But they're very open about it, and it takes a lot to get those colors. They have to go through a lot of initiation, and for most of it, they have to engage in a lot of criminal activity in order to get this.
Should people on the highway be concerned if they see someone passing by with one of these vests?
Well, I'd be concerned about all these people. Not just anybody wearing any vest, and that's what I want to be careful about, because not everybody that's riding a motorcycle that wears a vest is a bad person. Some of them are us, you know, and but the Mongols, yeah, I'd be concerned. I'd be concerned about it. But again, as I said, you know, more times than not, I guess what I'd be most concerned about is you don't end up in the middle of some crossfire situation. Because more times than not, to the average public, they're going to leave you alone. They don't have any beef. They have beef with each other, and they have beef among their groups, and that's what you end up with. Just like that, what happened up in Pasco, a few years ago, where the guy was stopped at a stoplight up there on US 19, and the guy drove up beside him and shot and killed him. And it wasn't that long ago. The state attorney's office just finished prosecuting that case not too long ago.
Kind of just building off that and what you're talking about. Do a lot of these folks have like regular day jobs that they do? And because I know there were some stories years ago where firefighters and other public servants, they were found to be part of these gangs as well.
Some do. Most of them don't. Most of them sell drugs, engage in illegal activity. That's how they're making their money. And so, same thing with these guys. And, Paternoster, he was a drug dealer, and we see some drugs out of the house. He wasn't working; he was a drug dealer. Some do, but most of them are just engaged in criminal activity. God forbid they actually go and get a real job and make a living the honest way, but they just want to engage in this terror, is what they do.
And did you say he was not a police informant?
I'm not getting into who's what about anything.
Sheriff, can you tell us a little bit more about the Raiders? How big are they compared to the Mongols?
So they're a feeder organization. They're smaller. They share the same clubhouse over in Tampa. So, it's kind of like, my analogy, maybe nobody else's but mine, it's kind of like minor league and major league baseball, is that they have their farm system, and so you can get in at different levels, and then you can work your way up, and you go through the initiation process. So it's kind of how it works with some of these. The Outlaws have their feeder organizations. The Outlaws have a clubhouse here in Pinellas County, and then they have the smaller organizations that are feeders into the larger ones.
This is the kind of situation that would kind of put heat on the Mongols as a whole between Pinellas and Hillsborough to kind of shut down the whole organization or that whole chapter?
I don't see these people ever shutting down. They've been at it for so long, and they've been around for so long, and they think that they can't get caught. And they think that nothing's ever going to happen to them. So, I know that we, have an obligation, not just to have charged him, but to charge everybody that was involved in this thing. And even though he was involved in this activity, and he was involved in criminal activity himself, is that we still owe it to him to bring people to justice that executed him. And as I said, there's more people out there, and their day's coming.
Something like this happens, do you guys on alert more for this kind of activity, or is it just kind of a random?
No, I very concerned about it, and have been. And now that we made an arrest and the indictment was returned on Friday and the investigation's ongoing, I am concerned that we'll see some additional violence because of it. I can't control it, but I am concerned about it because that's how they operate, that's how they act, and they do retaliate, and they're trying to shut things down and shut people down and take things into their own hands. So, no, that's a valid concern. Nothing I can control, but it is a concern. All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.